Now on KGW News, Oregon hospitals overwhelmed.
I would describe this as a healthcare crisis at this point.
They're running out of beds, canceling surgeries, and pushing some doctors and nurses to their limits. A Portland firefighter is arrested, accused in a kidnapping. Plus, coping with wildfire smoke.
No, I don't think this is a Western U.S. problem. This is a global problem.
As wildfire seasons get worse, local experts offer advice on keeping your home from becoming unhealthy. And later, why stockroom shelves are nearly bare at many local restaurants. First at 11, a man tasked with protecting lives and property has been arrested in a disturbing crime. Good evening, I'm Laurel Porter. Thanks for joining us. KGW has confirmed one of 3 men arrested for a kidnapping over the weekend is a Portland firefighter. Mike Benner has more, including reaction from the chief.
According to police, the intersection of Southwest Broadway and Taylor in downtown Portland was the scene of an armed kidnapping late Saturday night. A witness called 911 to report that they had seen somebody taken against their will at gunpoint. A little more than an hour later, we're told, officers found the suspects and their vehicle near Southwest McAdam in California. Who officers did not find in this Johns Landing neighborhood was the victim. We're told law enforcement found that person in Clackamas County late Sunday morning. As far as how the victim and suspects know each other, that's a mystery. All we're being told is that they're not all strangers. The suspects, who are now facing felony kidnapping charges, are identified as 24-year-old Edward Simmons, 42-year-old Hong Lee, and 46-year-old Douglas Borland. KGW has learned Borland is a firefighter with Portland Fire and Rescue, although he's on leave and was prior to this past weekend. Regardless, the fire chief is disturbed by the allegations. Sarah Boone released a statement saying service, community, and sacrifice are central to what it means to be a Portland firefighter. I'm gravely concerned by details of this arrest, but will closely follow the legal proceedings before forming an opinion about what has occurred. On the surface, these are horrific charges, and justice needs to be served. In Portland, Mike Benner for KGW News.
Just into the newsroom tonight, police have arrested a man accused of killing a former Barlow High School standout athlete. 21-year-old Dominic Jacoby was shot in Gresham on Friday. Jacoby starred in football and basketball at Barlow before graduating in 2019. Police now say 23-year-old Alec Baldridge pulled the trigger. They arrested him tonight. We don't know right now any details about a motive. Now to Oregon's rising COVID numbers. There are now 752 patients in the hospital with COVID. And as you can see from the chart, take a look at that. That number has been sharply rising for about 3 weeks, and it's really starting to take its toll. Even before COVID, Oregon had the fewest available hospital beds per capita. Now hospitals are swamped with COVID patients on top of their normal load. This is Asante Three Rivers Medical Center in Grants Pass. It has stopped all elective surgeries and got emergency approval to expand its hospital beds from 125 beds to 161. But there's still not enough room. The CEO and a top surgeon are pleading with the community to get vaccinated. Josephine County, where the hospital is located, has one of the lowest vaccination rates in Oregon.
I would describe this as a healthcare crisis at this point. I've been in healthcare leadership roles for over 25 years, and I've never experienced anything like this.
If we do not do this, I guarantee you, you will see refrigerated trucks at the back of the ER taking the bodies out, because that is where we're going to be in the next week or two.
And that is pretty frightening. The hospital CEO said he is not able to shift patients anywhere else because the other hospitals are mostly full as well. Oregon's congressional delegation is asking FEMA to send in medical personnel to help out. In the meantime, hospitals are hoping you will help flatten the curve. OHSU sent an email to patients calling for urgent action. Data shows Oregon will be short hundreds of staffed hospital beds in 3 weeks if we keep going in this direction. It means if you or your family ends up needing to go to the hospital for any reason, you may not get a bed. And that's why the hospital is asking everyone to hold off on risky activities that could send you to the ER. They're also pleading with people to wear masks inside and outside if you can't socially distance. Limit get-togethers and get vaccinated. The doctors and nurses are burned out, breaking down, and some are quitting.
I'm really tired, but all of my colleagues are tired. Like, I personally started having panic attacks. All we're trying to do is save people. That's all I'm doing by doing this interview, is trying to save people.
OHSU is at full capacity right now based on the number of staff they have. 30 people there have COVID, and COVID patients make up 1/4 of all ICU patients in the hospital. Listen to this, 100% of COVID patients in its ICUs are unvaccinated. New tonight, U.S. experts are expected to recommend everyone get a COVID vaccine booster. It would come 8 months after you got your last dose. That's according to sources who spoke with the Associated Press. An official announcement could come this week. The goal is to ensure longer lasting protection against the Delta variant. It's likely the third doses would begin after the FDA approves the vaccine. Health officials recommended third doses last week for people with weakened immune systems. The Clark County Sheriff's deputies who shot and killed a man in a bank parking lot last fall will not be charged. And that was the decision handed down today from the Pierce County prosecutor who was looking into the case. Tonight, Dan Haggerty has a closer look at those findings.
Shots fired, shots fired. Kevin Peterson Jr. was shot and killed October 29th in the parking lot of a U.S. bank in Hazel Dell. Before that, investigators say he was at a nearby hotel to sell Xanax. The buyer had tipped off police. One of the key points of the prosecutor's investigation was a text message Peterson had sent to the would-be buyer. He said if caught, he'd, quote, feed the law, and included emojis of a gun pointed at a cop. Deputies making the bust were aware of that text, and the prosecuting attorney said they considered it proof Peterson was willing to shoot them. The report from the prosecuting attorney released on Monday also found that Peterson had several chances to unarm himself and follow orders. He first took his gun with him when he ran from his car at the hotel.
He's running.
Surveillance video shows him running. At some point, officers say he dropped the gun and picked it back up. When he got to the U.S. Bank parking lot, he was confronted by two officers with their guns drawn. That's when one officer says Peterson brought the gun out again and started running in the opposite direction. A statement from Peterson's family Monday hones in on the fact that he was running away from those officers. It reads, "We are shocked an officer gets to shoot Kevin in the back because he was tired of chasing him. And now the two officers who shot at Kevin while he was running are both back at work. This is unfair and unsafe for everyone in the community." But the first officer to fire his gun said Peterson was running back in the direction of the other officers who were following him from the hotel. He said he felt Peterson was a threat to him and the other officers, saying in his statement, "I kinda just drew the line in the sand and said, I've given the suspect enough commands. If he takes another step, I'm going to shoot him." And that's what happened. Shortly after the officer started shooting, a second deputy started firing, and Peterson is seen on surveillance dropping to the ground. Once on the ground, surveillance video shows Peterson sitting up and raising what appears to be a gun. That's when deputies shot him again. The investigation found that Peterson likely never fired his weapon. But in a statement, the prosecuting attorney said there was no legal requirement for the officers to allow Mr. Peterson to fire first before defending themselves. She said their use of deadly force was allowed under the law and was justified.
The Peterson family has said they intend to file a civil lawsuit against the Clark County Sheriff's Office. In developing news, a Hillsborough family is pleading for your help to find their missing son. 16-year-old Ryan Williams was last seen August 8th near his home, which is by Hillsborough High School. His parents say he walked out after a disagreement over chores and never came back. They're especially worried because he needs glasses and medication he didn't take. They say maturity-wise, he functions more like a 12 or 13-year-old.
He would be easily manipulated by someone if he thought they, were nice.
Yeah, to him, everybody's a friend. He was placed with us through foster care when he was 8, and some of that needing to belong stems from that background.
The family, along with volunteers, have searched their neighborhood and their prior neighborhood next to El Monica Elementary. His parents think he might be in a park or a forested area. Keep an eye out for him, especially if you live in the Hillsborough or Beaverton areas or you're visiting there, and call Hillsborough Police if you see him. From Afghanistan tonight, there's word that a senior Taliban leader is meeting with Kabul's political leaders, trying to bring some of them into the Taliban government. At the same time, planes are said to be landing and taking off quickly from the airport after a terrifying day there. The U.S. is still trying to evacuate military and embassy staff. Afghan citizens desperate to leave ran onto the tarmac, some even jumping onto planes as they took off. The Taliban has set up checkpoints around the country using the very weapons American taxpayers bought for the Afghan army, which collapsed instead of fighting.
The situation now is very difficult. It's about getting help so that people can get to safety. That's the agenda. And a lot of those people were people who were there for American forces over the years.
Senator Ron Wyden today called the situation in Afghanistan horrific, but also said he doesn't want to send in more troops to continue fighting. We also talked to a Portland resident who grew up in Afghanistan. He has a brother still living there, and he's very worried about him and the future of the country.
Taliban, they will have their own way of extreme things, and they will not allow women to do education and work in offices.
He does agree the U.S. withdrawal was needed, but says it wasn't handled well.